They say people go to the beach to relax, but not everybody's shoreline brings peace. Sometimes the tide carries back more than shells. Sometimes I bring back what shouldn't have never left. Welcome to Whispers Between Worlds. We upload every day chilling horror. Story 1. The Lifeguard's Whistle. There's a stretch of beach in the Outer Banks that locals avoid after sundown. No official signs, no posted warnings, just whispered stories passed from old fishermen to stubborn teens. The kind of stories that start with, "I wouldn't go out there if I were you." In 2014, a 19-year-old named Matt ignored all of that. He was in town for a summer job, lifeguarding during the day and crashing at a cheap rental cabin with his cousin Tyler. One night in late July, after a long shift in the sun, the two decided to hang out on the beach with a couple of beers. The waves were quiet, the stars were out. It felt like the kind of night made for nothing but peace. Then came the whistle. One short, sharp blast, just like the one lifeguards use when someone's doing something stupid in the water. Only this time there were no lifeguards. Matt was the lifeguard. They looked around, expecting maybe another guard was on duty, but the beach was deserted. Then came another whistle, docked closer. They stood, scanning the dark horizon. And that's when Matt saw something strange. A figure out by the tide line. Red one-piece suit, whistle around the neck, just standing there, not moving. He called out, "Yo, you good?" No response. Tyler, feeling brave, walked toward her. As he got closer, he turned back and said, "She ain't saying nothing, just standing there like frozen." Matt started walking too, but before he could take more than a few steps, the woman raised the whistle to her mouth and blew. A loud, piercing sound this time. But here's the thing. Matt didn't hear it, Tyler did. And he dropped to his knees, holding his ears and screaming. By the time Matt reached him, the woman was gone, just vanished. Tyler was still shaking, eyes wild, whispering. She screamed through the whistle. It wasn't a sound, bro. It was a scream, in my head. Loud. She screamed something I couldn't understand. They ran back to the cabin and locked the doors. That night, Matt had a dream. He was back on the beach, alone. The woman in red stood in the surf, staring at him. When he looked down, he was wearing the same whistle she'd been holding, and he was blowing it over and over, even though he didn't want to. The dream ended with water pouring out of his mouth like he'd drowned. Tyler left the next day. Wouldn't say why. Wouldn't even come back to pack up. Matt finished out the summer, but never went near the beach after dark again. Years later, someone online posted a photo of an old lifeguard from the 80s. A local girl who drowned saving 3 kids from a riptide. She'd worn a red suit, always carried a silver whistle. Matt saw the picture and nearly dropped his phone. It was her, the same woman from the beach. Now he never goes near any beach at night, especially not the one in the Outer Banks where some say a lifeguard still walks the tide, warning people to leave with a scream no one should ever hear. Let me know when you're ready for story 2 or if you need an intro or thumbnail update for this one. Story 2. The shadows past the shoreline. It was supposed to be a peaceful solo getaway. Nina had been going through a tough breakup. Her friends encouraged her to take a trip alone, somewhere warm, somewhere calming. So she booked a quiet oceanfront Airbnb in a lesser-known beach town in the Carolinas, cheap, secluded, and close enough to drive. The house sat right by the water, barely separated from the ocean by a short stretch of sand and a crumbling wooden deck. The owner barely looked up from his phone when handing her the keys. "Stay out of the water after dark," he said casually, without even meeting her eyes. "Things change when the moon hits it." She laughed it off, thinking it was just small-town superstition or one of those weird local jokes people tell tourists. But that first night, something felt off. The moon was nearly full, and it painted the waves silver, almost glowing. She sat out on the deck, sipping wine, trying to enjoy the sound of waves. But at some point she couldn't remember exactly when it got quiet. Too quiet. No waves. No breeze. Just stillness. And in that eerie stillness she saw them. Figures. At first she thought they were just beachgoers, maybe a late-night couple or fishermen. But these silhouettes, they didn't walk like people. They glided. Not floating, but moving as if their feet didn't touch the sand. There were 3 of them, lanky and tall, with limbs that seemed too long for their frames. She squinted. No clothes. No faces. Just shadows. Nina stood up quickly and backed toward the door. But the figures stopped too. All 3 simultaneously, as if they sensed her movement. She turned and ran inside, slamming the sliding door behind her, and yanked the curtains shut. The silence returned. The next morning she walked out expecting to see footprints in the sand. Nothing. The beach was untouched. She convinced herself it was stress, maybe the wine. But that night, the same thing happened again. The ocean fell silent. The figures returned. Only this time they were closer. Much closer. She could make out more detail the way their skin shimmered like wet stone, and how their heads slowly tilted one by one as they watched her. Terrified, she slept in her car with the engine running until sunrise. On the final night she planned to leave early, bags already in the car. But curiosity got the better of her. Around midnight she peeked outside. No moon. Cloud cover. Nothing. Just regular waves and dark ocean. She exhaled in relief, turned to go inside, and found wet footprints, leading from the beach. Across the deck, up to the door. They stopped right at the glass. Her breath caught. Slowly she backed away. As she did, her phone lit up with a notification, a photo. From an unknown number. It was a picture of her sleeping in her car the night before. Taken from inches away, she didn't even grab her stuff. She drove straight home, barefoot and shaking. The local police shrugged it off, saying maybe it was a prank. But when she checked her Airbnb reviews weeks later, she found one from a guest who stayed after her. Beautiful view, peaceful beach. Just don't look at the water too long. Something might look back. If you thought that was unsettling, just wait. This next one drags us even deeper into the dark. Let's get into the final story. Story 3. The Red Cooler. Kyle, Malcolm, and Sierra weren't the kind of friends who bonded over deep talks or shared trauma. They bonded over cheap beer, beach bonfires, and dare games. Every summer they took the same trip to the same beach in southern Georgia. Remote. No boardwalk. No cops. Just sand, pine trees, and freedom. This time they arrived to find the usual path to their favorite spot blocked off by yellow caution tape. A storm had eroded part of the shoreline, and apparently something had been unearthed. The locals were tight-lipped. A park ranger they bumped into just said, "You kids stay clear of that stretch. Bad stuff washes up after a storm like that." Naturally, that was enough for them to go straight there. By the time they got to the old dunes, the sun was almost gone. The sky bruised into purples and grays. That's when they saw it half buried in the sand, near a jagged rock formation, a red igloo cooler. It looked ancient, sun-bleached. Rust on the hinges, no logos, no brand. Just a crusted-over lock snapped open like it had been forced. Malcolm, the boldest of them, kicked it open. Inside wasn't ice or soda, but a plastic bag tied off tight. Something inside shifted wet, but not quite liquid. Sierra swore it smelled like bleach. Kyle swore it smelled like rot. Malcolm laughed. "Maybe it's drugs." Kyle muttered, "Maybe it's a body part." Sierra told them to leave it alone. They dragged it to their fire pit anyway. Later that night, the bag was gone. No footsteps, no signs of it being taken, just vanished. They blamed each other, argued, drank more to forget. Eventually, they all passed out around the fire. That's when Kyle had the dream. A hand, slick with something thick, reaching toward his mouth. Another dragging him backward into a cave. He could hear someone laughing, but it wasn't a voice. It sounded like metal scraping together. He jolted awake. Malcolm was gone. Only his phone remained, screen cracked and playing a voice memo on loop. "Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't." They found Sierra staring out toward the water. Her face was pale, her lips moving silently. Kyle ran to her, grabbed her shoulders. "Sierra, where's Malcolm?" She looked at him like she didn't know him, then calmly whispered, "He went to put it back, but it's too late. It knows." That's when Kyle noticed it. The ocean wasn't moving. No waves, just a flat, black sheet stretching into forever. And from that black, something was rising. The shape of a man, no. Too tall, too thin. Too fluid. It wore the cooler like a crown. Its arms were made of rope. Its face was a knot of melted skin and broken sunglasses. And in its chest there was a hole the size of that bag. Kyle ran. He never saw Sierra again. He told the cops Malcolm drowned during a late-night swim, and Sierra disappeared trying to find him. They chalked it up to alcohol and grief. But that wasn't the end. Months later, Kyle got a package in the mail. No return address. Just a small red cooler. Inside, Malcolm's cracked phone, playing a new recording. "You opened it, now you carry it." Kyle never opened his own fridge again. The ocean hides many things. Some wash up, some stay buried, but the stories, those always find their way back. If you made it this far, you're braver than most. Make sure to subscribe to Whispers Between Worlds, where we upload horror daily. And remember, the next tale might be about someone just like you. Sleep tight. If you can.